Okay, hello, welcome back Year 12, and we're on to the penultimate section of work here, looking at conflicts between objectives, so growth, inflation, employment, etc. And we're also going to look at how trying to achieve those objectives, if the means that we use to achieve those objectives, do they conflict with one another, such as monetary policy, supply side policies and fiscal policies. Does the use of one policy conflict with another? And we're also going to have a look at something called the Phillips curve. As usual, what you will need to do when you're taking part in this lesson is to use the resources that I've posted on Google to support as and when. So pause now. Can we form macro policy objectives for the UK economy? What do you get? Hopefully something like this. Stable inflation, sustainable economic growth, low unemployment, balance of payments. In other words, what we're looking for here is a competitive trade position. Remember, the balance of payments is a set of accounts. That was one of the final lessons we had with one another. So the balance of payments will always balance. Okay, just in the UK context, since 1984, we've run a current account deficit. So in our context, it's reducing that deficit on the current account. So remember, the balance of payments itself is never in deficit. It's the current account or another account that will be in deficit. Okay, so just bear that in mind for going forward. So any of those four, you might add some others such as improved access to public services, environmental sustainability, rebalancing the economy. Think about the north-south divide and the various discussions that took place in the election at the end of last year. A lot of what the Conservatives ran with was rebalancing, and upon their victory they talked quite a lot about rebalancing the economy. Okay, so keep that in mind as well, but it's not just constrained to those four. Okay, story time. Read this through, and what you need to do is, can you pick out any policy conflicts that might be occurring here? If there's a spelling mistake or two in here, I do apologise, but nevertheless, so pause now, see what you can pick out. Alright, you might have spotted a couple. This is what I was looking at. So Petty Mare has an average annual growth rate of 1.5% a year over the past 10 years, not bad. Part of this growth has been generated by capital investment. Okay, so if you're generating growth by spending more on capital goods, possibly that's polluting. Okay, keep reading on. The new railway stations and roads have enabled citizens to be more mobile, I should have said, therefore facilitating travel to where demand is needed. Okay, so here we've got the idea of citizens being able to move and get jobs where the jobs are being created. In other words, we're having a situation where the demand is equal to the supply. Okay. Reading on, the capital stock used to build this infrastructure was imported from nearby Witton-le-Gilbert at a cost of £10 billion over the time in question. Okay, so the policies that I intended of you to pick out when you were reading that was balance of payments and economic growth. Okay, so a competitive trade position. If the growth is being generated by importing capital goods, then you're going to be running a deficit, okay, on the current account, and that's going to be conflicting with trying to achieve sustainable economic growth. So what I'd like you to have a go at, pause the video again. You need this article from Katie Allen, The Guardian. It's from 2016, but it's really worth having a look at. Click the link, or just Google the article title and it'll come up. Okay. Once you've done that, read it. Once you've got it in front of you, read it, and then find this chart for points 1, 3, 4 and 5. Explain how and why the current account will be affected given those particular scenarios. So you've got the Labour government devaluing the pound, right? That should raise a few alarm bells for you, because our discussions of the exchange rate have focused upon this sterling being free floating. So some of you might be sitting there thinking, you've told us a bunch of lies there. Well, I haven't, because prior to sterling going free floating, it was actually it was fixed. Okay, so the government could actually devalue. We've then got the 3-day working week in oil shocks. You could actually have a look at that one if you want to. But surplus of North Sea oil, right? Economic boom under the Chancellor Nigel Lawson. A weaker pound helping exports in 5, and then the record deficit in 6. So read it, okay, read it through, and then explain how higher rates of economic growth could be accompanied by a widening current account deficit, okay? And that will help cement your knowledge and understanding of how these two different macroeconomic objectives can conflict with one another. Do that now. Okay, article number 2, okay? Again, using The Guardian, right? Find this article, right? Note it is more than 4 years old, but why does Larry Elliott associate Britain's current account deficit with the idea of an economy being vulnerable? Okay, vulnerable to what, maybe? Recession? External shock? Okay, what's the link? So in other words, we're still building on this idea of growth and the balance of payments coming into some sort of conflict. Pause now, see what your thoughts are. Okay. We're now going to move on to having a look at the link between economic growth and environmental sustainability. Right? So 2 tasks for you to have a go at here. Again, we need an article, first link, and you to watch a video, second link. You like the video, it's a good one. After you've read the article and watched the video, write a paragraph explaining how pursuit of economic growth could conflict with environmental sustainability. And here's your success criteria, essentially. Make sure that somewhere in that paragraph you are referring to aggregate demand, aggregate supply, capital stock, rates of growth, degradation and pollution in your answer. Remember, you must write like an economist. So, pause now. I would say this will take you about 10-15 minutes to do, okay? Nice, chunky, analytical chain of analysis. Pause now. Okay, right, we're now moving on to start to think about how we can use our models and concepts that you've been taught over the past year or so to illustrate trade-offs. So get yourself a rough slice of paper somewhere and sketch out an aggregate demand and aggregate supply diagram, and then make something shift. Let's say there's been an increase in government spending, okay? What do you notice that happens? Right? Shift aggregate demand, and you can decide which way you're going to shift that. Right? Obviously, if you shift it the wrong way, you're not going to see what I intended. And after you've made the shift, look at your aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve. What's happened? Right? Has there been a conflict between some of the economic objectives?